Welcome, friends. I'm Cheryl Mitchell, the president of Tree 11, which is a retreat and learning center on a sheep farm here in Addison County. And it's been our pleasure over these past many years to be working with Building Bright Futures and Let's Grow Kids to really highlight what's going on in the early childhood world in our area. And I'm thrilled today that our guest is Akshata, who's going to be talking with us about Little Pitaka, a program that I'm just beginning to learn about, so you will as well. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And do you want to just start with, I know that the word means little firecracker.
Yes.
But maybe you could give us a little bit of background about where this project and program came from.
Yeah, absolutely. So Little Pitaka is a children's brand that I've started. It's located in Jericho. And I started it during the pandemic. And the idea or the seed for the whole thing was my own daughter, who was 2 years old at the time. And like so many of us, we were all huddled in our own homes when everything had shut down. And I noticed that I'm from India. And I noticed that when I spoke to her in my native language of Konkani, she understood all of it. But as she was learning to speak and form words, she mostly spoke in English, which is our default at home because my husband's American. And so with the idea of creating one book for her to teach her my language, it sort of snowballed into this whole thing as I read more and more about early childhood education and, where we form our own identities, where we form relationships with others' identities. How do we start recognizing these things? She was so young and I could see how many languages she could understand and all those types of things. So I got more and more interested in that. I'm a science geek. My background, I have degrees in biochemistry and nutrition. So research is what I've done well. And so I just dove deep into research to understand these things. And what I found surprised me that kids, by the time they're 5 years of age, they have already formed certain biases, like based on race and gender and culture. Mm-hmm. So that really surprised me because that's an age group from birth to 5 years where we don't always focus on their opinions as much, right? We're more we're trying to keep things light for them and make sure that they have their play and those types of things. And we don't think they pay attention to complicated subjects. So what this made me realize was that if we're not actively participating in this, they're passively learning it from either the people they're surrounded by or the media they're exposed to. And so this really interested me and amazed me as well that in the last few years when surveys had been done, there were more books with animals as the main characters in children's media than there were of all the minorities combined. And if you have this information that these biases are forming so early on, I wanted to see what could be done to have an impact on that particular survey or detail or information. And so that's kind of where Little Pitaka came into being, was this idea of creating something so we can show kids and introduce them to people and sounds and ideas that they may not normally be exposed to. Help normalize all of it so that diversity and inclusion becomes the expectation rather than the exception that it is in many cases.
I love it.
Thank you.
Are you an artist? How do you convey this?
I am not an artist.
Are you using photographs?
Yeah, I ended up I had a business before this called the Orange Owl, which was vegan skincare products. And through my work in that, I had formed a community of creative people. And so when I decided to start doing work on this, and the first book I made was for my daughter Eva to teach her my language of Konkani. Mm-hmm. And so when I was working on that, I reached out into my network and through friends of friends of friends, I got in touch with 2 illustrators who were also themselves just starting out. And I asked them if they'd be interested in doing this with me. And so I've kind of dragged them along for the roller coaster ride at the moment. But I come up with the ideas for the products and then we discuss it and see how we can create diverse representation in whatever product it is, whether it's a book, it's a puzzle, affirmation cards, whatever it might be. Every single product that we make has the idea of promoting inclusion and addressing some really random stereotypes that tend to exist in children's media. the things like boys are twice as likely to be heroes, while girls are twice as likely to use magic to solve problems rather than
Wow. Yeah.
their knowledge or their abilities. So these types of things definitely need to be addressed because, again, information and research shows that kids are forming these opinions very early on. So what can you do to just help them understand that when we say you can be anything you want to be, that is actually true?
So it's fascinating.
Thank
So
you.
how are you finding books compared to affirmation cards? Which are most popular? Which do you think are most effective in helping kids to understand this?
I think anything that is open-ended from all of my conversation with early childhood experts, teachers and directors and everything, anything that's open-ended is something that kids just love to play with, that is not very structured. Or so I feel like that's one of the reasons we wanted to do toys in addition to books. Books have wonderful stories, it really helps their imagination, but open-ended toys can also have a very deep impact in how they think because they can create whatever they want. And so when we made our jigsaw puzzles, we also made it so it wasn't just one jigsaw puzzle you can make. Instead, we've made it so that there are 10 illustrations of 10 regular professions, and the characters are either a race or a gender not usually associated with that profession. And we've made it so that you can either recreate the original illustration through the jigsaw puzzle or you can mix and match it and make your own. So now the Supreme Court Justice loves to dance and loves to cook, and you can mix and match those things and make your own and come up with a story. And that seems to really make the children sort of love it and just get so involved, and it gets them thinking. So I feel like a good mix of both is necessary because the books can give story and some direction and the illustration can help build on that. But these open-ended products like affirmation cards, like jigsaw puzzles, board games, building blocks, like those types of things can certainly help boost another part of how they learn and how they think.
So besides your daughter, did you have a group of kids that you were trying things out on? What was your lab school like?
My guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Well, it's mostly been family and friends who've been very generous with their time and just sitting with their kids and going through things and helping me understand some of it. The early ideas that I had were based on what I saw was happening in my own house. Just watching Ava, that's my daughter's name, just seeing how she was growing up. And if you think of birth to 5 years, kids are going through a ton of developmental stages during that time. There's a lot that happens. And so just seeing how every few weeks, every few months, she was interacting with the same product in a slightly different way. And so that's why anything that we create, we do it in that way so that as they're growing up, they still find ways to interact with it. So it's not just a quick, one-time use and it's done.
You put it aside,
You end up using it again and again. And so we create very high quality products so it will last for a long time as well.
Do you have a manufacturing plant?
We don't have a manufacturing plant here in the US. I'm working with people I know in India, which is where I'm from. Well, the print press that does my books is based in the same city that my mom grew up in. And so we have deep roots to the area and we know the people who run the plant. So we know that the labor force is treated well, the quality is very high. We can make sure that what we are asking for and what we're delivering is something we can be proud of. The other print press that does our products is one of the largest print presses in Asia. So it has a very high reputation for the kind of products that it creates. And over the last year and a half, I've developed really good relationships with them as well. So now again, these are both that I know when I call for something, I know that they will step up and be able to produce the quality that we want that will last for a long time.
And how do you distribute? How do people find you?
Yeah.
Are you like with Constructive Playthings or
Yeah, right
local
now we are
stores?
mostly online.
Uh-huh.
So I launched last year with a Kickstarter campaign just to try out and see what
Yeah.
would happen. That was the first two books that we did. The idea was to introduce two Indian languages with phonetics and access to online audio files, so that pretty much anybody, whether you've heard these languages before or not, you can pick up this book and you can learn a language that you've not heard before. And so that was very exciting, but I didn't know if anyone would be really interested in that.
Yeah.
And so I did the Kickstarter campaign, and it was a huge success. I raised 160% of what I wanted to. And so that was incredible. And then this year I did another Kickstarter campaign where we raised twice the amount that we raised the last time. And this time, many Vermont small businesses came together and supported our campaign to then distribute these products in the community so that we can boost diversity within Vermont, which is something that I think is sorely needed, especially in children's media. And so this was very exciting to see that happen. So mostly our focus has been online. We do have some local stores like Phoenix bookstores in Burlington and Essex, the Flying Pig bookstore in Shelburne. So there are some bookstores that are carrying it, which is very nice always to receive support from local businesses. And seeing your products on the shelves is always a high that you can't forget very easily. So now we're looking to get more bookstores and toy stores, gift stores on board so that they can carry our products starting from next year. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. At the moment, it's all online on our website. It's littlepataka.com, PATAKHA.com.
Great. And that will show up at the end for
Yes.
those of you that are watching, if you want to be able to go out right away and find
Yeah.
out. I'm also curious, it sounds like it would be a wonderful gift to a lot of the preschool programs in the state to access
Absolutely,
your
and that's what
materials.
we've done with Building Bright Futures, is worked with them on grants, and through that we've distributed these books. Currently only the books, since the jigsaw puzzles and affirmation cards are still being shipped from India. They just got ready. So currently the books have been purchased through grants, and we've distributed them to preschools, mostly in Chittenden and Franklin Grand Isle counties so far. We're working on the other ones as well around here. But then I've also gone and done readings to interact with the kids and show them how the books work and just have a good time with them. And I've received incredible feedback from the parents. I've had them write to me on social media and tell them they love it that their kid came home with the book and they've been so excited about it, and the whole family gets to learn a language they didn't know about before. And they're also very excited to support for the book that I made in my own language, Konkani. Until recently didn't have an official script of its own, and so there have been no children's books made in this language ever.
Wow.
And so this is
So
the
you're
first
developing
one.
the script as well?
I used the Roman script, the
Yeah.
one that we used to write English. I used that to create a key, created the alphabets, and then wrote the words out, and made the book. And so I plan to carry that forward. So that's one way that people are very happy to support and boost up a language that would otherwise have died out in a few generations now without having the necessary foundation.
Yeah.
So now there is a lot of work that's being done on the language in India as well, and then here this is what I'm doing. But it's the first children's book in the language, and it was incredibly touching for me to see a staff pick sign next to that in the Phoenix bookstore, just to see that something that I've done for my own language, which is helping it continue being spread across the country, to see that getting recognition through Phoenix bookstores, through messages I've received online from parents of kids who received it in their preschools.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you'll have a connection with the Center for the Book at the Council on the Humanities, and that's another way to have a national distribution or
I'm
awareness.
hoping to start more connections like that. The Cliff organization is something that I've started connecting with, and we're trying to see how we can work together, which would be wonderful. So there are many organizations that can really help spread this to the end users, to the kids
Yeah.
that need to get their hands on this and have fun with it. So I'm really hoping that that comes about soon. So that's the plan for next year.
It'd be great. So
Yeah.
I'm curious what it's been like for Ava and for the rest of your family to have you going from being a researcher to suddenly being an entrepreneur and product developer. And
Yeah, it's been quite. I always call myself the accidental entrepreneur. Because, like I said, my education is in biochemistry and nutrition, and I was looking forward to a life in labs. Like, that's what I wanted to do. It wasn't that I was unhappy with it. I was very happy with it, but just some twists and turns, personal health issues and a few other concerns made it so that my husband and I moved to Vermont and we started our first wellness center. He's a chiropractor, I'm a nutritionist, so we set that up in Essex. That was our first business. Then I did the Orange Owl, which was my second business. I had to shut that down during the pandemic just because of the uncertainties. Again, my personal health came into play, and then the pandemic just like really made things so difficult.
Yeah.
So all of that shut down, and then I started Little Pataka. So it's been quite a roundabout journey. Ava's excited because the first character that we drew for the books is her. So she looks like her. She's wearing her favorite dress from that time. So she calls her Mini Ava, and she thinks it's just the best thing ever to get that much attention. She loves it, and she shares it with everybody. What I love seeing is how effortlessly she combines the Indian and the American cultures and identities, which I've struggled with as a grown-up, trying to see where I fit in. But I see her and I see how effortlessly she does it, and she's so excited about these books. And so that keeps me going, just to help keep, making sure she understands that and is proud of everything and whoever she is, and to make sure other kids can feel that as well. My family is very excited. I have unconditional love and support from them. They are also my forced volunteers, as I call them, so they do get dragged in very often. But it's been
is
an
your
exciting.
mom still in the town?
No, my family is in India. So it's Greg and myself here, and I have aunts and uncles everywhere, but and cousins. But my immediate family is still in India. So they're excited. My dad's a businessman, so he'd always told me, "You have it in you," and I'd said, "No, I prefer research." So he's been very excited over the last decade that I've found myself somehow as a serial entrepreneur. He's very excited about that.
How did you come to choose Jericho? It seems like a very out of the way place to settle.
My husband's from Maine, and so I knew Vermont was about as south as he would go in the country. And when we drove into the Burlington area, both of us found things that we both like. I love the youth of it, and I just love all the different things that are available in and around Burlington for me creatively as a person. And within 5 minutes, you go out of Burlington and there are trees, and that makes Greg happy. So we both loved the greater Burlington area, and we found a beautiful spot in Jericho to purchase land and build our house. And so that's how we find ourselves in Jericho. Again, unexpected, but a beautiful, beautiful result.
And do you feel as if Ava has enough of a community of other kids her own age? And
so right now she goes to preschool in Williston, and she definitely has a wonderful group of friends that she loves, absolutely loves and adores. When she starts elementary school, it'll be different, so we'll have to see how that goes. It'll be the first time she'll be switching schools as such from preschool into elementary school. So we'll see how that goes. But I do know that, if you're thinking about diversity and other things, just in general in Vermont, it's not an easy thing to find. But also by virtue of who I am, by virtue of who my family is, by virtue of the work that I'm doing through Little Pataka, Ava and her friends are going to get exposed to all of this no matter what they do, whether they want it or not. And so I'm proud to bring that to them. Her teachers tell me that where her friends, the other kids in her class in their pretend kitchen make toast, she makes them dosas, Indian crepes, and idlis, which are like, steamed rice cakes. And so she's bringing that out to them, and they're bringing so many things to her. So I love just seeing how those ideas mix up, and she ends up eating Indian food with Vermont maple syrup. And so what more could I ask for?
sounds perfect. So she's going to be 5 soon. Do you
Yes.
will you keep on doing Little Pitaka, or do you think you'll change and do something
No,
for older kids?
Little Pataka is in. I'm in it for the long haul. We've had an incredible year. The two very successful Kickstarter campaigns, and
Yeah.
I was also a part of Launch Vermont, which is an accelerator program here in Vermont. I was one of the 7 companies selected for that. I've won a couple of pitch competitions, so we've got national recognition as well. So right now, I'm raising funds to make sure Little Pataka can grow at the rate it needs to grow and have the impact that it can, realize its true potential. And so this is the long haul. I
Yeah.
hope to continue making products that I think will have an impact on kids, continue working with local organizations like Building Bright Futures and many others to bring this out to as many kids as we can, and making sure that everyone gets a chance to see themselves reflected, because representation matters
Yeah.
to everyone, so we can all see different possibilities, and that's what Little Pataka wants to do.
I love it. So
Yeah.
you were one of the speakers for the Women's Fund?
I was,
Is that
yes. Yeah,
great?
just a few days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah, on the
just I
panel.
know that people were so excited about that, and it feels as if this whole movement of women-owned businesses is taking taking off with much more energy than it used to
Absolutely,
have.
and I'm thrilled to see that happen. Even just in the last 10, 11 years that I've been doing my different businesses, I see such a change. And especially in the last few years, I feel like there has been an incredible rush of energy towards, making sure we are counted, our voices are heard, and that we are standing up for things that we believe in.
Yeah.
And the pandemic, I think, definitely turned things around as well. So many women had to leave the workforce because of childcare issues, and then they decided not to just, sit home. They started businesses. So it's been incredible to see all of this. I do work through the Center for Women in Enterprise, where we've seen a boost in the number of women-owned businesses that that have started during the pandemic. I work with Let's Grow Kids. I work with Main Street Alliance to help prop up what are the important policy and advocacy topics that we need to bring to the forefront: paid family leave, childcare, all of these things. And so this is so important to make sure, especially for women, if you're a single entrepreneur, a solo entrepreneur doing everything, you need support because you give so much to your community.
Yeah.
You need to make sure you have the support from the government so that you don't end up in a situation like I did, where 10 years after running the Orange Owl, when I needed help to step back and just recover from my pregnancy and delivery, I didn't have that. So my choice was to continue through, putting my own health at risk, or end it. And I had to close it down. So the idea is to now stand up and make sure our voices are heard, so
Yeah.
that people have more choices than just those two.
It's so exciting to hear somebody who's got personal passion, family experience,
Yeah.
all the research that
Yeah.
you put into it, and these skills that are not just for you, but that you're sharing with the community.
Thank you.
And I could talk to you for hours.
Yeah.
We're going to run out of time for
Yeah.
this interview, and I wonder if there are things that you would like to tell the audience that you haven't had a chance to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's mostly, what we've seen through the pandemic, which is support your local businesses, your local bookstores, gift stores. Like, they've been through a lot. All of us have been through a lot, obviously. But there are so many of these local businesses that are just holding on because of the communities that are propping them up. So keep doing that. I think we all need to we've shown what we can do when we come together, and we just need to keep doing that and not lose that sense of community that came together in the last few years. So I think just keep doing that, and I'm very happy to see the results of it. And personally, for me, I'm really looking forward to see where Little Pataka goes, because the feedback and the support I've received has just been incredible. And so I'm happy to see where it goes from there.
Well, thank you so much for being on today. It
Yeah.
was just totally exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
For those of you that would like to follow up, the website for Little Pataka will show up in just a moment. I'd also like to thank Darla Senecal from Building Bright Futures for getting this organized, and James Corbett, who's our producer behind the scenes here.
Yes.
And to give a shout out to Middlebury Community Television, that if any of you have information that you would like to get out there to the public, call them up. They're great at making things available. thank you again.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful today.
Thanks.